Hello, everyone. Or maybe just one. I had a single request to make this video, so I figured that I should get to it. It took a little bit of planning because I had forgotten what I said in the previous video. I actually thought that I told stories that I never had. Thinking back on it, so I will tell those today. I will be going into more of my past and telling kid stories, but I will apologize early. I do live next to an airport. My dog is in here. It's 4 a.m. Planes are just starting, and my dog is a snorer. And she's old and grumpy, so if I try to wake her up, it probably won't be good for me. She might be angry, cranky all day, barking at nothing, all that aside, keep in mind, if you do not like paranormal things, if you don't want to hear anything spooky related, that is totally okay. This is not the video that you want to be. I would like to say that it is a safe place, but for people who don't enjoy spooky things, it would not be for you. So feel free to go find something cozy and relaxing while we get spooky over here. Without further ado, sorry for rambling. My experiences actually started when I was an infant. I was just born, and there was a man standing over my crib, and my crib was next to my mother, and she woke up and saw a man in blue jeans with a belt and a black shirt tucked in, and that's all she saw, enough for her to reach up and grab me, and I was choking. To this day, we don't really know if it was someone that was trying to wake her up, that was watching over me, or if it was something bad, but she told my father's side of the family, and it probably wasn't that great of an idea because they're not super open-minded, but my grandmother thought that it was my uncle. He had died a month or so before I was born, but he was not a good man in life. That doesn't mean he couldn't be good in the afterlife, if it exists, or whatever you believe. But we don't know if maybe it was him, or if it was him trying to help. Would he try to do something like that? It's up in the air. But he was probably even buried in that outfit because that's his attire. He wore it every day. He was just that kind of guy. So that was kind of weird, huh? But moving further on, I was around 1 or so, and I was able to form sentences. I was a child, or I was the child that was a perfectionist even then, and I would try to articulate sentences, and I would start over and over, and it was probably very annoying starting my sentences over until I got them correct. I was also reading very early, but thanks to this, I was able to communicate with a person, I guess. As soon as I was able, I would either ask my mother or try to move it myself, try to move a chair over to the oven and stove area, and I would put it in the corner, and then I would sit in front of it. I wouldn't climb it, I wouldn't do anything risky with it, but I would sit in front of it, and I would just babble at it, play with toys in front of it, that kind of thing. people thought that I had an imaginary friend. When they asked who it was, I would say, it's a lady in a white dress. That's how I called her by, that's what I called her by, but I didn't know her name. But one day, I got locked out. We had to wait for my father to get home. And we went over to the neighbor's house, and this was a neighborhood that people built their houses, and they had been that way for a long time. It was people that had been in these houses for 80 years. Their family was there, and my father, I don't think he knew, but the previous homeowner had died in that house, and then he bought it afterwards. If he knew, he might have not, but at the same time, he's not exactly open-minded, so he probably wouldn't mind too much. But anyway, so we were over there, and our neighbor had actually grown up in this town, and she kept many pictures, and my mother and her were gabbing about how things had changed over the years, and we actually saw a picture of our house, and I pointed because the lady in the white dress was standing on the porch, and I said, "Hey, that's my friend." And obviously being innocent, my mother is like, "Shush, shh, don't say that." Not wanting to appear crazy. But the neighbor was very intrigued and was trying to ask me a bunch of questions, and I was happy to oblige. I would talk to pretty much anyone, which is probably really bad for a kid to do, but she would start coming over after that. She was asking if there was anybody else, or, things like that, I'm sure. It's very curious. But one night, I guess one day, I was home with my father, and we were taking a nap on the couch, and the lady in the white dress, I guess, was in the corner wanting to talk to me or play or something. And I sat up and I said, "I'm sorry, I can't play right now. I'm taking a nap with my dad." And my father's hair on his arms stood up. He was terrified. She was the type of lady to bake, and every once in a while the house would smell so good of baked goods, but have nowhere for it to come from, and it just enveloped the whole house. And asking the neighbor, yeah, she was that stereotypical person to put a pie to cool in a window, and it was so nice, so cozy, right? Probably not if you aren't comfortable with the afterlife and spirits and things like that. But needless to say, she was a kind woman. She was a homebody. She never really left her house and died in the house. And I guess I was just innocent enough to be able to see her, and she's obviously very kind. I think that kids have a decent judge of character when it comes to situations like that. Not always, but but we ended up moving. That situation scared my father, who doesn't believe in anything, and we moved probably within a couple of days. My mother said that he came home and said he sold the house and they had a week to get out or something. I think that's how the story goes. But I got a little bit older. My brother was born when I was 2, and he was about 1. So we were in the backyard playing, and it wasn't super mobile yet. He could walk, but not a lot. A little bit of a chubby baby. And we had a padlock on the gate while we were in the backyard, and my mother went inside for 1 minute. And in that 1 minute, the padlock had fallen off. Somehow it got unlocked, and we were outside on my great aunt's van, who lived next door. Which, there is no rhyme or reason for how we got on there. There are pictures somewhere that I think my great aunt has. And yeah, we have zero idea. Even now it kind of sounds incredible, ridiculous a little bit. Because there was no way to climb it. It was a big shop van, if you know what I mean by that. You know, not really like a ladder. But yeah, we were up there. They got us down, and my mother was asking, and my great aunt was asking, how do we get up there? And I said, oh, it's my friend Ashley. She helped us. She opened the gate, and we got on top of the van. If there weren't pictures and multiple people saying they saw this, I don't know if I would believe it. It's just incredible. But this caused something in my aunt to, I guess I would say, snap. She always had an inkling that things like this existed, but having me as proof of someone who sees and things like that, she went over to where I said that Ashley lived, which was right across the street from us, and she was very bold, and she asked, hi, do you have any ghost experiences? Do you know if a little girl died here? And the homeowner said, I do have weird experiences. My piano will play randomly. I'll have pairs of things that go missing, like the pair of the earring or something like that. And they asked me to ask Ashley, where are those things? And I told them that Ashley said they were in the attic, and lo and behold, they were in a little tiny box in the far back of the attic where Ashley kept her things, I guess, that she liked. But she was kind of mischievous, I would say. And there are more stories from other people how guests would come over and I would say, hey, don't sit there, Ashley's sitting there, and everybody waved it off of Ashley's just an imaginary friend. Some people would sit there anyway, some people would be respectful. But my neighbor and my great aunt, as the they, did some digging on the house, and it turned out that a little girl named Ashley had died in that house. And I don't know if it was from a sickness or a fire at this point. I don't really remember. I could probably ask and find out, but I am unsure. But again, once my father found out about this, we moved. Immediately sold the house. We were gone. Once any sort of proof came to light of my situation actually happening, we were gone. There was no way we were staying there. So, the next one I'm going to talk about is actually kind of a little scary. When I was in my room, I was laying down to sleep, and my eyes are very bad. For context, I cannot see in the dark. I mean, you'd think no one can, right? But even moonlight is not really strong enough for me. Street lights are not strong enough for me. I found this out the hard way one night. I was out in the countryside and driving a four-wheeler, and even no matter how much I adjusted the light, I could not see where I was going. And I was slow driving, and I accidentally like slowly just basically ate a bunch of pine needles. My cousin on the back, I kept asking her, where do I go? Where do I go? I could see in the direction of the house light, so I just kind of went in that direction. And my mother's boyfriend at the time tried to adjust the light to see if I could see it in any direction, but I could only see directly at the light. And I've since asked doctors about it, and they said it's genetic. Unfortunately, it's just nighttime blindness, is what they called it. And I actually had a doctor say that recently that I should have just been born a cat, but that was kind of weird. Anyways, I didn't mean to ramble, sorry. But I've asked 3 eye doctors now about it, and one of them said that there are glasses that might be able to help for night vision, and I don't know. Anyways, all of this for context. So I was laying in bed, and like I said, I couldn't really see all too well. But I could see the light of the door frame. I could see around the door frame. I couldn't see light going into the room from it, if that makes sense. But I could see that there was a shadow or a form in front of the door frame, and I was like, hey, what are you doing in my room? Are you guys playing hide and seek or something? And they didn't answer me. I'm like, okay, I guess they're playing hide and seek. I have a lot of cousins and relatives that were always over, but they didn't move. They stayed right there. I was like, okay, I think you can get out now. Minutes had gone by. I didn't hear anybody searching or anything. And eventually I got up and I was like, what are you doing? I'm trying to sleep. And this didn't really deter them or anything. But I'm sorry about that. I got up and I opened the door and nothing was there. I went out and I asked, hey, were you guys playing hide and seek or something? And they were all sitting down watching a movie. Nobody was in my room. There was nothing. And I don't even know why I thought somebody could have made it out by the time I opened the door. I would have seen the door open, but I was just looking for an answer, I guess. It was kind of strange. Very scary. I didn't want to go back in there. I didn't know what I saw. But let's see. These are all the stories that I've written down, but I don't necessarily want to end on a spookier one. I would much prefer to end on something more wholesome. So I'm trying to think, are there any more wholesome ones? Well, I guess I could tell a little bit more of a spooky one instead. I don't want it to be super scary, but sometimes I guess I should just tell it how it is. So, again, with a reflection, I'm sorry to you who has requested it. I know we have a common bond in hating reflections, and this is yet again another story with a reflection. But I had a giant homemade snake cage. You could say it was a bunch of wood panels with glass doors, made by my mother's boyfriend at the time. And he had a snake that he had rescued from a little teeny baby, and He's very friendly and loved warmth, and I was very, very afraid of snakes. But eventually, I got over my fear, and I held him all the time. That being said, I was going to open the cage and get him out, because he really liked to coil up around my wrist or climb up inside of my jacket and rest around the arm, or around my arm, up high where there was a lot of warmth. He loved that kind of thing, and I'm sure if there's a snake owner that if you have one that you do hold, that might love warmth, that they might do the same to you. But yeah, he was just a little thing, just basically a bracelet and so on. But I was getting him out, and I noticed that in the reflection we had a little gold trim around the glass of the door. And you could just barely see a reflection in, just barely. And I noticed that there was an old woman behind me in a Hawaiian shirt with khaki shorts and white tennis shoes and white socks that went just above it. And I was kind of spooked, and I looked behind me. What was that? And she wasn't there anymore, but then I looked back in the reflection, and in her place I saw a very tall black shadow, and I was so scared. And I closed the snake cage, and I grabbed this little dog that we had, who was also very afraid. Because at my father's house we had a German Shepherd, and at my mother's we had a little teacup Yorkie. And I don't know if that's so smart with snakes, thinking about it, but that's... Anyway. Back to the spooks. I ran outside, and my phone that was about 70% instantly drained, was gone. And I called my great aunt, who just so happened to also move out to where we lived, or around there. I called her and I was like, hey, there are some bad things going. She was actually my savior for a lot, and she was probably the only person who fully believed me. My mother would listen, but she wasn't exactly super supportive, and nobody wants to think that their kid is seeing things, and so I would tell stories, but the only person that would actually listen and not make me feel as crazy as I felt was my great aunt, because I had convinced her when I was so young. But she drove over immediately, and I told her that my phone is suddenly out of nowhere dying, and I was so panicked. And she said, I'll be right there. Just stay on the phone with me for as long as your phone will accept. And it was flashing, low battery. Every second I'm hearing it beep in my ear. Well, I'm just panicking out on the sidewalk, just pacing, and I decided to end up walking towards that direction, so I could just be picked up on my great aunt's car. And little did I know, she would bring some recording gear. And she brought an older video camera, and she asked me if I was willing to go back in. And I said I didn't really want to, but I would if she really, really wanted me to. I did not want to go back inside. I was very afraid. I didn't want to go back in there alone, and that's what she wanted of me. But I sat in the middle of the living room, and she pointed the camera at me and went outside. And I sat in there for maybe 15 minutes. And it's kind of all a blur for me. But there is a moment in the video where I turned, and I guess I saw something. I'm not really super sure. I think I was so afraid. I don't really have memory of it. But a sound happened right after I looked in this direction. and my eyes got really big and wide in the video, and I went to my aunt and I said, I'm not staying in there anymore, and she was watching the video back, and then she tried to start asking questions, but no answer, which isn't that surprising in my opinion. And yeah, we ended up leaving. She took me to, I don't know, probably out for lunch or something. Took me to her house, and we went there until someone got home. And I don't know if I told anyone why I left, but it was very scary. I absolutely hate reflections, and I have so many bad memories linked with reflections, and I guess I've always thought that because I do have a fear of them. I don't know if it was, I was just made this way from the first time that I experienced something scary, or if it's just a natural fear for me. Nobody wants to see something in the mirror looking back at you, or so on. But I tend to have more experiences like that, and it could be that maybe I'm creating them myself, because I am so afraid of reflections. But the description that I gave of the older woman that I saw behind me first, crazily enough, my great aunt was taking care of a woman. She just went over there to pick her up, take her out for groceries, go and do little things with her, take her to her doctor's appointments. It was her friend Cleo, and I don't know why she would speak to me, but the outfit that I described, my aunt pulled it out of her closet because Cleo had died, and she kept some of her clothing, and she had the exact shirt. It was a dark navy shirt that I described with white flowers on it, little palm fronds, leaves. I think that's how you say it. And yeah, it was frightening for me because I didn't, and I guess I don't want this stuff to be real, but I have so many memories involving people and things of that nature that it's just kind of hard not to believe, It's really hard to disprove, but if you can, let me know. And if you want another one of these, I will surely record them for you. Alright, talk to you next time. Bye.